Hi, in this lecture, we will be discovering the hardware for home and work. We'll be evaluating the hardware for home and work. This is the part of our lecture series on discovering computers. Basically, we are working on a course on the computer and its usage. So we are using the textbook Discovering Computers, Digital Technology, Data and Devices the from the Shelley Cashman series, and you can see the author's name here. So let's straight go to the computer operating systems. What we do consider when we select some hardware and operating system. So a hardware, when we talk about the hardware, it refers to the device, the computer, the device itself, and its components like wires, cases, switches, and electronic circuits. But device hardware is more than that. You have the disk drives inside the computer. You have the memory cards. You have the printer devices. I mean, all those things are considered as hardware. The components of computer hardware contain various type of hardware, therefore memory, storage services, that's what we are talking about, CPU, input and output devices, and the communication devices. So you can see the considerations about the operating systems in a computer. So in order to understand the scope of the operating systems, let's understand several things like several terminologies. Like with a computer, we talk about central processing unit or CPU, which is a complex integrated circuit consisting of millions of electronic parts and is primarily responsible for converting input data into meaningful output information. The data travels in and out of the CPU through the embedded wires called bus. Now there is you have to talk about the processor as well. When you purchase a computer, you might notice that the processors can be advertised as having one or more cores. I mean, when you talk about the processors, it's basically the the central processing unit. That's what you are talking about. That can have multiple core. They can tell you that it's a dual core or single core or four cores computer. Uh, if a processor uses specific data frequently, the great feature of it is it can store that data in a processor cache. A processor cache stores this data next to the processor so that it can easily and quickly be retrieved. Now, when a CPU executes instructions as it converts inputs into outputs, it does that with the control unit and the arithmetic logic unit. The control unit manages the flow of instructions within the processor, and the arithmetic logic unit, you can call it ALU, that is responsible for performing arithmetic operations in the CPU. If you add, multiply numbers, then you are using the arithmetic logic unit. Now, computer memory is responsible for holding the data and programs as they are being processed by the CPU. Different types of memory do exist, including random access memory, read-only memory, and virtual memory. So, what is the random access memory after all? This is the storage location. RAM or random access memory is a storage location that is part of every computer and that temporarily stores running applications and document data while a computer is switched on. Now, RAM is stored on one or more chips connected to the main circuit board of the computer, also referred to as, you call it as motherboard. Temporarily, temporarily it stores data needed by the operating systems and apps you use. So in this picture, let's see, you can see the RAM here, right? This is your RAM. Now, the motherboard basically is a circuit board inside the computer that contains the microprocessor, computer memory, and all other internal devices. When you start up an application on your computer, the application's instructions are transferred from the hard drive to random access memory or RAM. Although accessing an application's instruction from RAM results in increased performance, the contents of RAM are lost when the power is switched off. The memory that loses its contents when power is removed is said to be volatile. Memory that is non-volatile does not lose its contents when the power is removed. So basically, if you save a file on your disk permanently, it is there. If you switch off the computer, it does not go away. But the content in your RAM that goes away. Now, there is a read-only memory as well. The read-only memory or ROM. There are two words, RAM and ROM. The ROM is permanently installed on your computer and is attached to the motherboard. The ROM chip contains the BIOS, basic input and output system, which tells your computer how to start. The BIOS also performs a power on self test POST, which is the sequence at startup that tests all computer components for proper operation. The ROM also provides the means of communication between the operating system and hardware devices. Computer manufacturers often update the instructions on the ROM chip, which are referred to as firmware. These updated instructions or firmware version can enable your computer to perform uh, additional activities or fine tune how your computer communicates with other devices. When you run your operating system, now comes the operating system. When you run operating system is like the brain of the computer. You have the hardware devices, but your operating system uh, gives the life to the computer because it accepts the input from the user. It passes on all the instructions, I mean all the user's input to the core of the operating system, which is called, sometimes that is called kernel. And kernel has a lot of algorithms, lot of programs in it that knows how to route a certain request. So let's say you try to print a file. So use as a user, you click on the print button, then that print command, it is transferred to the kernel of the computer. The kernel has a program that that is that basically carries that information to the interface or the interface of the printer, that is called the device driver, the printer's driver. And once it offloads the information on the device driver then picks it up, and then it also has a set of instructions inside that sends to the hardware device, and you get your prints, I mean whatever you are printing that is coming out. Anyways, so when you run your operating system and other applications on your computer, the operating system and each application will require certain amount of RAM to function properly. As you know, as you run more applications simultaneously, more RAM will be needed. If your computer runs low on RAM, it may need to swap the contents of RAM to and from the hard drive. When this takes place, your computer is said to be using virtual memory, which is basically the capability of an operating system to temporarily store data on a storage medium until that can be swapped into RAM. The area of the hard drive temporarily used to store data cannot fit in RAM. uh, that is called the swap file or paging file. Depending on the type of hard drive installed on your computer, using virtual memory may decrease your computer's performance. So in this picture, you see here that illustrates um, how a computer might use the virtual memory. So it describes the step-by-step process. So the step one is the operating system. The operating system transfers the least recently used data and program instructions from RAM to the hard drive because they are least, right? They are not used actively. So in the step two, the operating system transfers the data and program instructions from the hard drive to RAM when they are required. Okay, so that's pretty much that is described in this particular picture. So it shows that a RAM, physical memory on the left here, and hard drive on the right. Two files from RAM are swapped out to the hard drive. Okay, two files are swapped out to the hard drive. The swap file is a temporarily stored on the hard drive. Two files from hard drive are swapped into the RAM. So it's pretty simple, right? I mean, pictorially, it's pretty simple. So when you consider the computer operating system as we described, the processor core is very important. If you have processors with multi-core, multi-core or more than one core, that performs better, but at the same time, it may be more costly. So computer memory is responsible for holding the data and programs. They are being processed by CPU, and operating systems and other applications require certain amount of RAM to function properly. So all these things we described in the preceding slides. So these are the consideration for computer operating system. So you have, when you go to the store, you buy a computer, you look for the processor, like multi-core processor is better. Then you look at the RAM. How much RAM it is, does it have? Like sometimes you have 2 GB RAM, sometimes you have 4, 8, 16, 32. More the RAM is better your performance. Now, you don't have control about swap file or paging file. That is some structure inside your operating system. So you can choose the operating systems though. So depending on your needs, you can choose a Windows system. You can choose, for example, a MacBook, the Mac, basically the Mac system, operating system. Then you can choose a Linux operating system, Unix operating systems. So these are pretty much very high level descriptions of the operating system available in the market. So when you use the computer operating systems, RAM and ROM, as we described before, you have to understand the difference between them. So RAM is random access memory versus ROM is the read-only memory. So RAM is temporary and ROM is permanent. RAM is stored on one or more chips connected to the main circuit board of the computer or the motherboard. So ROM is stored on a chip that contains BIOS connected to the main circuit board of the computer. Of course, RAM is volatile memory, whereas ROM is non-volatile. So these are pretty much the distinction between RAM and ROM. Now, again, you can have different types of RAM. Like you have the dynamic RAM, like memory needs to be constantly recharged or contents will be erased. It's volatile, of course. Static RAM, I mean, memory can be recharged less frequently than RAM, but can be more expensive than RAM. Magento resistive RAM, I mean, it is non-volatile. The flash memory, that is typically less expensive than some other types of RAM and can contain its content in the absence of the power. So, I mean, flash memory, you can have a flash drive or USB drive to aid your computing needs, and that is permanent storage. So, uh, you have to follow the following factors to buy a computer. The platform: do I need to use software that requires specific platform? For example, if you are planning, if you are heavily using a Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office related functions, then you must choose a I mean, Microsoft platform. You know, if you want to do a lot of like machine learning, data science related activities, you should choose Linux or MacBook because those are good for server side computings. Now, hardware is another important thing. Do I require specific hardware to perform my intended task? The processor, for example, single core versus multi-core processor or certain processor type. Uh, how much data and information do I plan to store? The size of your disk drive. Maybe you don't need a lot of disk drives, then you can go with a simple 16 gigabyte disk. But if you want a lot of data, you can go up to 1 terabyte. I mean, you can go 1 terabyte and extra. The main advantage these days we are enjoying is that the disk is not, I mean, the memory, the disk drive is not that expensive. Then you have the form factor. Will I be using computer in one location or I need to be mobile? So if you want to use it one location, you can have certain computers, whereas if you need to be mobile, you have a um, I mean, typical computer that has less weight, and then also the wireless devices needs to be very prompt. I mean, all computers that they sell in this market, they have all the facilities, but basically the weight, the shape, those comes into the factors. The add-on devices, what additional devices will I need to perform my intended tasks? If you need a DVD player, these modern computers, they do not have any room for the DVD discs. So if you want, then you need to buy one temporary DVD player. Temporary DVD player, portable DVD player to plug into your computer, or a disk drive, temporary disk drive to plug into your computer. So those are the considerations you might want to use. You can also evaluate the system's requirements. So you can have different processor requirements, different memory requirements, different storage requirements, and other differing hardware requirements. So the form factor refers to the shape and size. So that's important. Then the various types of computers exist, including desktop, all-in-one computers, laptops, tablets, and other mobile devices. A desktop computer typically consists of a system unit, monitor, keyboard, and mouse. All in one has a monitor and system unit housed together, your laptop, for example. So, selecting the right device, a laptop is a compact communicating device with input devices, keyboard, touchpad, and webcam, output devices such as screens and speakers, one or more storage devices such as hard drive. Uh, Ultra thin laptops, they are lightweight, more expensive, less powerful, thin device with fewer parts, longer battery life. So you have to put all these considerations when you select the device that you need for your work. Another is the two popular form factors tablets are slate and convertible. The slate tablet resembles a letter-sized pad, does not contain a physical keyboard. A convertible tablet is a tablet that uses a screen on its lid and a keyboard on its base. There are different input and output devices you might use, like the scanner. You can scan the documents. You can have 3D scanners. Um, these are very fancy. I don't know, for any real office work, you might need those, but sometimes you do need a 3D scanner. The printer is a very useful device in order to create hard copy of the printed output. Although these days we are going much paperless to save the environment. Uh, you can have different types of printers like inkjet printers. It sprays small dots of ink into the paper. Laser printer, it uses laser beam and toner to print on your paper. Multifunction device, the mobile printer, small lightweight printers, the plotter, and also the 3D printers. And there are wireless enabled printer as well. You don't need a hardware, you don't need a wire to connect to your printer. You can just have your printer uh, hooked up with your wireless network, and then you can use it from your computer as needed. The computers can also provide voice output. A voice synthesizer converts text to speech. Some apps and operating systems have a built-in voice synthesizer. The projectors can display outputs from a computer. So these are very high-level inputs and output devices you need. Now, before you turn on your computer or device for the first time, you need to make sure that all necessary components are included and free from any damage. You should read the manual to ensure you are following the setup instructions and safety instructions. You should you should carefully unpack all the components from the box. Don't leave anything there. In case of laptop, charge the battery completely before you start using it. You should connect all components and accessories. Then you turn on the computer or device and follow the remaining steps on the screen. Uh, you can have the peripheral devices. Sometimes some devices called plug and play devices will begin functioning properly as soon as they are connected to your computer, such as your USB drive. A device driver is a program that allows your computer or device to issue controls to a separate device. So whenever you use some plug and play device, sometimes it comes with some hardware, comes with some driver installation. So you have to follow that. Like printer, it definitely has certain driver installation. To connect to a wireless device to your computer, you need to follow the installation instructions that come with the device. The processor's clock speed measures the speed at which it can execute instructions. Now, the cycle is the smallest unit of time a process can measure. The efficiency of a CPU measured by instructions per cycle, how many instructions it can turn over per cycle. The bus width determines the speed at which data travels and is also referred to as word size. A benchmark is a test run by a laboratory or other organization to determine processor speed and other performance factors. Uh, you know, you need to reduce your hardware risks. So it comes to the security factors. Uh, you should avoid the hardware theft known for their mobility devices can be stolen. You need to keep the data accessible in case of theft or destruction of the device. So back up your data properly. To prevent laptops from being stolen, use a cable lock. That is very important especially if you are using it in a uncontrolled area. Keep mobile devices out of sight when traveling in a high crime area. Minimize the use of headphones and be aware of your surroundings. That's very important. Then you reduce the hardware risk by use a damp cloth to clean the screen gently. Use a can of compressed air to clean the keyboard of any dirt or debris. Extreme temperatures or humidity can damage the electronics. So if you decide to clean your keyboard using some water-soaked cloth or water-soaked paper, it's an absolutely bad idea that can damage your motherboard itself. Don't use that. An uninterruptible power supply UPS is a device that maintains power to computer equipment In the event of interruption of the primary electrical source, a surge suppressor is a device that prevents power fluctuations from damaging electronic components. You know, protecting a computer from cyber attack is very important, but its damage from dropping it or a lightning strike is also very important. So you can have different things going on like blackout, total loss of power. You can have brownout, that is drop in voltage lasting minutes or hours. Spike, very short duration of voltage increase. Surge is a short duration of voltage increase. Noise is unwanted high frequency energy. So reducing the hardware risk can be also done by restoring an operating system, means you have to revert all the settings to their default. The recovery mode, when your system goes to the recovery mode, you will see that a lot there. Typically, you uh, navigate to that place, I mean that recovery pane, and you will find how do you do that. That Windows operating system includes a feature to restore your operating system. Now, you know, before, I mean, when you restore the operating system, it is, I mean, sometimes your operating system gets corrupted. So it's very important to back up your data regularly, you know. So your essential data, because if you start backing up your, let's say, your 1 TB disk on a regular basis, of which 50% is filled up, then you need a lot of storage devices. You don't need that. So you can choose certain areas. So that's basically the strategy is you create some folders, useful folders, and store your essential information there, data information, programs, etc. there. Or you can use some, I mean, for your programs, codes, documents, you can also use several cloud-based systems like Drive, Google Drive, for example. That's an example. There can be other storage solutions. You can store your code under the GitHub repository that is absolutely free of cost. But if you write some code, if you put it on GitHub, then it serves you twice in two different ways. Number one is your code is secured and you can access it anytime. You can download it, you can use it. And secondly, when you are up for any job interview, you can put your GitHub location on your resume. If it is an IT job, your potential employers will be able to review your programming effort, and that is a good that increases your chance of being employed if your contents are good. The reducing hardware risk is also, I mean, your Wi-Fi networks are vulnerable to several risks such as reading wireless transmissions, viewing or stealing computer data, injecting malware, downloading harmful contents. Now, internal, external, and cloud-based solutions, you can have that. As I said, you can have the storage solution, but it's not just the storage solution. When you are using a computer, the most common storage medium is the internal hard drive, but you can use the external hard drive that can add storage capacity to your computer, that is USB storage, for example. You can use the magnetic hard disk drives, have a greater storage capability. You can use the solid state drive that is faster and more durable than the magnetic drives. You can have the optical medias like CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray discs. Um, so instead of optical discs, you can use the USB flash drives, external hard drives, and cloud storage. Those are now very important and very commonly used. So the cloud storage involves storing electronic files on a remote server connected to the internet, not on a local computer, and is called storing data on the cloud. It enables the storage of files remotely on servers that could be any part of the world. Storing files on and retrieving files from cloud storage requires only a computer or mobile device with an internet connection. Cloud storage companies host and maintain the servers and provide access to your files. All networks have same basic characteristics and hardware. Networks allow computers to share resources such as hardware, software, data, and information. A network requires a combination of hardware and software to operate. Smaller networks usually require simple hardware and can rely on the operating system's features, uh, whereas larger networks typically require more sophisticated hardware and software. So you can frequently hear the words like hubs, switches, routers when you talk about the networks. So on the networks are commonly called nodes. They include computers, tablets, mobile phones, printers, all kind of devices that are connected. Now, hub is a device that provides a central point for cables in a network and transfer all the data to all devices. Um, a switch is similar to the hub that provides a central point for cables in a network. A router is a device that connects two or more networks and directs routes the flow of information along the network. A modem is a communications device that connects a communications channel, such as the internet, to a sending or receiving device, such as a computer. More computer For a computer to connect to a network, it should have network interface card. Otherwise, it cannot connect to internet at all. Most of today's modems are digital, which means that they send and receive data to and from a digital line. Cable and DSL are two common types of digital modems. The type of modems require your network to be networks required for your network will depend on your internet service provider. A cable modem sends and receives digital data over a cable TV connection. DSL modem uses existing standard copper telephone wiring to send and receive digital data. The processor chips for laptops, desktops, and servers can generate quite a bit of heat. That is very important stuff. Your computer gets hot after a certain time. The heat sinks, liquid cooling technologies, and cooling pads are used to help further dissipate processor heat. A heat sink is a small ceramic or metal component which fins on its surface that absorbs and disperses heat produced. Liquid cooling technology uses a continuous flow of fluids such as water and glycol in a process that transfers the heated fluid away. A cooling pad rests below the laptop and protects the computer from overheating. So many electronic components such as the processor and memory attached to the motherboard. On the desktop and laptop computers, the circuitry for the processor, memory, and other components resides on a computer chip. A computer chip is a small piece of semiconducting material, usually silicon, on which integrated circuits are etched. An integrated circuit contains many microscopic pathways capable of carrying electrical current. A processor repeats a set of four basic operations, which comprise a machine cycle. Fetching is the process of obtaining a program or an application, instruction, or data from its memory. Decoding refers to the process of translating the instructions into signals and computer can execute. Executing is the process of carrying out the commands. Storing, in this context, writing means writing the result to memory, not to the storage medium. So this picture illustrates the four steps of the machine cycle. Now, a processor contains small high-speed storage locations called registers that temporarily hold data and instructions. Registers are part of processor, not part of memory or a permanent storage device. Register functions including storing the location from where instructions was fetched, storing an instruction while the control unit decodes it, storing the data while the ALU calculates it, and storing the results of a calculation. The hazard of technology is your physical health as well as your behavioral and social well-being. Many users of technological devices report itches and pains associated with repeated and long-term usage of the devices known as repetitive strain injury RSI. So you can, you can protect yourself when you use your device. So basically, RSI has various symptoms like itching, cramp, numbness, pain, stiffness, tenderness, throbbing, tingling, weakness. Um, you can use, you can protect yourself by doing some repetitive activity. You can set up an alarm and then every certain number of hours or certain number of minutes to protect yourself from RSI. Then improper technique using a wrong procedure or posture can harm your health. Uninterrupted intensity is also um, not good. Performing the same high level activity without frequent periods of rest. So basically, you should working at a computer all day with no breaks. That's not good for your health. So there are multiple things you can use to facilitate your usage of the computers. One such thing is ergonomic sitting setup. They sell special kind of chairs, seats to help using your computers. One behavioral hazard is also the technology addiction. When when a user is obsessed with using the technology device, that happens. Apart from technology addiction, other behavioral risks as sedentary lifestyle, psychological development, and social interaction. One negative impact that can result in serious emotional harm is cyberbullying. Doxing is a form of cyberbullying in which documents are shared digitally that give private or personal information about a person. Cyber stalking involves the use of technology to stalk another person through email, text message, phone call, and other form of communications through their social network activities and so on. Um, there are a lot of harmful features of the cyberbullying, so carefully read this information. Another thing is the dispose of hardware. Like sometimes we no longer need the old hardware. How do we dispose? So electronic waste or e-waste is important here. It often contains toxic materials like lead and mercury. So three responsible ways to dispose them: send it to a recycling facility, donate it to charity or other non-profit, bring it to the technology store or farm. They can do it for you. And also an initiative called Sustainable Electronics Management. You can use, you can buy the green, like new electronic equipment. You can buy only products that have been designed sustainably. You can donate used but still functional equipment to school, charity, and non-profit organization. You can recycle. So there are multiple self-assessment activities here I have noted. So try to go through those and answer, whatever your thought is. So basically, we have learned um, a great deal of hardware and usage of the computer. how do you use the hardware, how do you choose the hardware and operating systems, how do you consider several factors when you use your computers. Finally, taking the responsibility to take care of the environment by uh, utilizing the recycling effort of your waste, electronic waste, as well as buying the only the sustainable products, all those things. So if you have any question, send me comment or email. I will love to answer your question. Thank you for listening to it.